Right, I shall deal with dial illumination. Being a straightforward task, I'll get it out of the way. There was once a light that shone down from beneath this chassis onto a record player deck. Before this unit was bereft of that part and converted into a radio only, when the radio side was switched over to gram, the two dial lights went out and the light that illuminated the turntable came on. It operated the other way, of course. Now that side of the circuit I have altered. That is just here. As we can see, when the switch is in that position, it brings this bottom light here into the circuit, and that switches on and it lit the turntable. When it was switched from there to any one of these three positions here, long wave, medium wave and short wave, then these two lights switched on and that one went out. Well, there is no record player anymore with this radio, so I have done away with all of that and connected it direct to the dial lights. I have sourced the 6.3 volts off pin 2 of the ECH 35. Right, I will just demonstrate to you. I'll not leave it switched on, as I have not connected a speaker load to the secondary of the audio output transformer. We don't want to cause any damage to it. Now, on with the speaker. This one that Messrs Regentone Company Limited fitted to the RG99/2 was manufactured by R&A, Wolverhampton, England. They were quite decent speakers. Here we see the paper cone. It has quite a few tears and it is also off balance. That is to say, the voice coil that has been wound round a thin card tube attached to the thinner end or bottom end of this paper cone rubs against a permanent magnet which is inside there, and of course it should not do that. My first job, now that I have assessed what needs to be done to this speaker, is to repair the cone. I shall do that by using this Evo stick wood glue. It happens to be waterproof, but that's not important. It can be non-waterproof, and I shall rub that onto the cone, and then I shall use this thin tissue paper here to cover this cone so that it will help to repair and stabilise those cracks and tears. Now, I would not advise using any thicker paper than tissue paper, because if it is thicker it makes the cone rather heavy, and as a consequence of that it will probably alter the frequency response of what this speaker has been designed to cover. That is to say, the top response may well be compromised. Straighten the tissue paper out a little. I placed the speaker onto it and, using a pen, I drew around it. You'll require a good sharp pair of scissors, the type that you'll likely see being used to demonstrate how some things are made, such as out of paper, on television craft shows, especially children's craft programs. The presenters always use good sharp scissors, not like the ones we have in our drawers at home. They are usually sloppy and are so blunt that they barely cut an old postage stamp in half. So, a good pair of very sharp scissors is essential. I'll bet a £5 note to a potful that this pair of scissors was not manufactured here in Sheffield. And they used to be. They have been for centuries. Right. I will cut round here where I have marked. I've cut a disc out of the tissue paper. It was just as well I used a good sharp pair of scissors. Very lightly. I'd have done a better job had those scissors been manufactured here in Sheffield, but I'm content with the results so far. I cut the tissue paper disc through to the centre and marked around the centre dust cover, and marked where else I'll need to cut through to the centre of the tissue paper disc. This here and this bit here will be waste. That tissue paper cutting job is out of the way. I've marked round the first furrow of the cone hinge. That is where I'll trim this tissue paper disc. Now that bit is complete, you see it fits on top of the speaker cone. Just here at this point I'll point out that there is no need to be precise. Right, it is now time for me to apply the adhesive directly to the surface of the speaker cone. It is very important to ensure that the cone is free from dust and debris. Don't apply too much adhesive to the cone surface. Too much and it will run into places where it is not required. Work the adhesive into the tears and cracks, being careful not to produce more tears and cracks. I find it best to use my fingers to do this job. It is doubtful whether I'll need any more adhesive than what I have put onto the surface of this cone, and just smoothing it round with my finger, working it into the areas that are cracked. You don't need to apply too much pressure, just take your time and spread the adhesive fairly evenly, or as even as you can possibly spread it, just like I am trying to do here. I have the tissue paper now on top of the speaker cone, and I am just lightly using my little finger to straighten it out. Just like I am doing here. Put your fingers at the back just to steady things. Don't apply too much pressure, otherwise you will tear the tissue paper. I'll just use the tip of my ballpoint pen to lightly press the edge of the tissue paper down into the furrow of the speaker cone hinge, almost just allowing the weight of the pen itself to press it down. Certainly don't need any more pressure than that, and likewise round the centre cone dust cover. No more than that. If we look from the back, it doesn't look too bad at all. Yep, I think that should be sufficient. Right, I shall leave this overnight and I shall pop back tomorrow and hopefully this will be dry. Just before I retire for the rest of this evening, I have decided to add a little more tissue paper to the centre part of this cone. For anyone contemplating repairing a speaker cone in this fashion, then this is purely optional. Here I am being fastidious. Some may say it is unnecessary, and they'd probably be right. Well, here is that speaker. It has remained here for almost 23 hours on from yesterday. All I need to do now is recenter or rebalance the cone. As you can see, it is just a moment. The grating noise that I pointed out to you in my last restoration video for this radio, you remember, appears to be so rectified itself. Oh, that's unexpected. Oh well, for the present I'll attribute that one as being another one of life's little mysteries. Right, I shall end this video just here on a happy note. Next time, in part 9, I shall connect that speaker to the radio chassis via a length of braided twin cable, and we can all hear what it will sound like. So, until then, this is me, Phil, saying bye-bye. Thank you for viewing.